Take your 500 milligrams of test and shut the fuck up. That's something that you hear banded around the internet constantly. Derek from More Plates, More Dates obviously famously quoted that line I just said. And you can find it echoed everywhere. If you go on any of the old school bodybuilding forums, ask the biggest guy in your gym, what should I take first? Most of the time, or at least before recent history, by recent history I mean the last 2 years, 500 milligrams testosterone per week would be what you should be told you should be taking, or 2 mil in most cases. Although I do hate measuring dosing by millimeters instead of milligrams. Anyway, how did this number come about? How did 500 milligrams per week become the starting dose for every body? And it doesn't matter who you are, how big you are, how small you are, how much training you have, nothing. Just take 500 milligrams test. That's what you should be taking. But what should you take? What is the dose that you should be taking? Because, Derek, he thinks you should take maybe 250, maybe 300 milligrams. He doesn't think you should take 500. But it doesn't really give you a solid case for what you should be taking. And that's for good reason. Derek has a good basic understanding of endocrinology and understands that everyone is different. There will be people where 500 milligrams testosterone per week would be a good cycle. That wouldn't give them any side effects. It would give them moderate gains. However, there'd also be a subsection of people where 500 milligrams testosterone would give them rampant gynecomastia. It would give them insanely high blood pressure. So there is not one size fits all when it comes to how much hormonal burden you should be placing yourself for your first cycle and for subsequent cycles. People like to view things in this world as black and white. Either is or it isn't. You either take 500 milligrams testosterone or you take nothing at all. That's tend to be the view set, people. We like to have firm fundamental truths of what we can hold on to and we can believe to be true for everything. Laws of physics. But it doesn't work like that. The dosage you should be taking for your first cycle is as individual as your height. It's as individual as everything, your fingerprints. It's going to be different. But how do you ascertain what you should be taking? How do you find out what your first cycle should be? Well, in my eyes, it's very simple and complicated. The first thing you should do is get blood work. I know it's talked about all the time. Get blood work, get blood work, get blood work. That's for good reason. You need to understand where you're starting off with. Where's your baseline testosterone at? Through this, you can then start to experiment. And experiment is the key word here. You're playing with hormonal systems. You're playing with your body's functions. You need to be able to experiment to be able to find what works for you. So let's take a random person. Let's say I wanted to start taking testosterone. Let's say I thought it's enough to be natural. It's enough being natural, sorry. Let's hop on a cycle. Let's get fucking big. What would I do? First off, I get my blood tested. At the very least, I want to get my testosterone levels checked. Now, let's say I am at 1,000 milligrams per milliliter. I think that's the right one. I can't remember the unit. Fuck. Let's say I'm at 1,000. Forget the units. From there, I can start to play. So I can then go on, let's say my ester is cypionate. We all know that right now I don't fancy enanthate through various reasons I've elaborated in other videos. Go check that out. So I'm on 200 milligrams of enanthate per week. I wait 3 weeks for those levels to fully saturate and for the ester to fully disperse into my system. I then do my levels again. Where do I sit? Am I at 1,000 still? Am I at 900? Am I at 1,200? From there, I can then start to estimate. I can start to change how much I take to reach certain serum levels. I can also see how my body reacts. So just because I'm now at 1,200 milligrams of testosterone in my system, how different is that actually actuating my body? How big am I getting? How much more energy do I have? How much more drive do I have? Am I experiencing any issues? Has my blood pressure changed? Am I losing any more hair? Am I starting to find sensitivity around my nipples? These should be all things that you should be looking at. How's my sexual function? Okay. 3 weeks have passed. I'm 1,200. I'm taking 200 milligrams per week. Let's say I have no side effects. But I'm also not really growing. It's not really doing much for me yet. So I up it, go 250. Wait another 3 weeks. Where are my levels now? Am I noticing any differences in my body? Am I seeing my strength numbers? Are they going up? How's my endurance? How's my mental health? How's my sexual health? How's my blood pressure? These should be all things you're looking at. By doing this, you can build a picture of how your body responds, because everyone will be different. There's no doubts about that. There's no ifs or buts or maybes. You got to remember, everyone is on a Bell distribution graph, like this, where the vast majority of us will sit somewhere at the top, but there will be outliers. So that might be you. I'm sure you have seen anecdotes online, spoken to people online who have taken upwards of a gram of total gear, and yet they don't look big. They don't even look anywhere close to an IFBB pro. Not even close. It'd be hard to be called a gym rat, let alone a pro. And that could just be down to genetic unfortunateness, being unlucky. Perhaps they have very, very, very few receptors, androgen receptors. Perhaps the gear they use was just shit in general. That also is going to be a factor here. Perhaps the particular ester they were using, perhaps their body hasn't got the right enzymes to break down those esters, because that will also play into it. There is a lot of different things that go into this. You get some guys who react very well to testosterone, but don't react well off something like DECA. And then the complete opposite can also be true. So there's a lot of experimentation to be done by this. And that is why I heavily recommend experimenting and going slow. Your cycle doesn't have to be 8 weeks. It doesn't have to be 12, 16, 20 or 24. It all comes down to your blood markers. If any of you are aware of pros, if any of you are aware of guys who are in the game to get their pro card or just to get fucking huge, you will know that the vast majority of them don't drop down to TRT doses. They stay at 400, 500 milligrams plus. I am aware of at least one guy who's been at over a gram for 2 years. Is that healthy? I would be hard pressed to even say moderately. It's going to be very unhealthy at those doses. But they know their bodies. That's what's important. I am by no means suggesting that people go out and do those kind of doses. You should be very careful of what you do. It should be done under the supervision of a doctor. You should be going to the NHS and being like, this is what I'm doing. I would like your support in keeping me healthy. That should be something that you're doing. The point of that, what I was just saying is that you don't have to constrain your PED usage to certain timeframes. It should all be constrained by your health markers. How's your blood pressure? You don't want your blood pressure to be chronically elevated for months at a time. How are your inflammation markers? Is your gear pure? Or is your CRP through the roof? Again, you don't want that to be high elevated constantly. So these things you should be looking at. And that's why I, again, say low dose, slowly titrate, at least look at your testosterone levels and start to increase it. And as you start to get deeper, as your dose starts to increase and you start seeing your results that you wanted or not, you should then start looking at other health markers. Again, your blood pressure, which you should know beforehand as well as your inflammation levels, your liver, kidney, heart. They're all very important to be aware of and to understand. Now, this is a slightly longer video, slightly longer format. This is the first time I've done this. I would appreciate your feedback. Is this a video format which you would like more of? Would you like a heavier presence on YouTube with these longer format videos where I talk about certain topics in a bit more depth rather than just rocket stop touching on various subjects? Now, I know this wasn't particularly deep. I basically did an elongated version of a soft touch on various things. But if it is something which you'd like to know more of, please let me know. I'd very much appreciate the feedback. As I've only got 30 seconds left on this video, thank you for watching. If you're interested in a consult, my email address is below and my website, Neat Coaching. If you're interested in any of my supplement products, the link is down below for Neat Supplements. I have a pre-workout coming out soon, which I'm very excited to release, and I hope you guys are excited to try it. That's it for now. Thank you for watching. Coach Neat out.